The Galactic Council had sent Ambassador Breyer to Earth with low expectations. Humanity, the newest species to join the interstellar community, was considered primitive by most standards. Their technology lagged centuries behind, their understanding of quantum mechanics was rudimentary, and their medicine, well, the Council's xenobiologists had documented exactly why human medical practices were considered quaint at best. Breyer's hoverchair hummed softly as she materialized in the designated meeting zone, a botanical garden on the outskirts of what humans called Geneva. The irony wasn't lost on her. The Council had chosen this location because her species, the Velnari, evolved on a world of crystalline forests. They thought vegetation would make her comfortable. They didn't understand that after the neural plague had ravaged her world, leaving 70% of her people unable to use their lower appendages, gardens only reminded her of what she'd lost. She had been one of the lucky ones, they said. She survived. Her mind remained sharp even as her legs became useless decorations. The Velnari had the finest medical technology in 3 sectors: nanosurgeons, genetic resequencers, consciousness transfers. None of it worked. The plague had rewritten something fundamental in their nervous systems, something even their brilliant scientists couldn't decode. Ambassador Breyer. A voice called out in flawless Velnari, though the accent was charmingly terrible. She rotated her chair to find a human male approaching, dirt under his fingernails and wearing clothing that looked designed for manual labor. He was young, perhaps in his 3rd decade, with sun-darkened skin and eyes that crinkled at the corners. "I am Eugene," he said, switching to Standard Galactic. "I'm the head gardener here. I was told you'd be arriving today. I hope the garden meets your expectations." Breyer's translator chip processed his tone, genuine warmth, no underlying calculation. Unusual for a first contact scenario. "It's adequate," she replied, defaulting to diplomatic neutrality. Eugene smiled, apparently unbothered by her coolness. "I've been studying Velnari flora for the past year. Your planet's crystalline tree structures are fascinating. The way they convert light into bioelectrical energy rather than chemical, revolutionary." Despite herself, Breyer felt her secondary heart flutter with interest. Most species found Velnari botany too alien to bother with. "You've studied our world?" "As much as the database allows," Eugene said, kneeling to adjust something in the soil nearby. "I'm particularly interested in the neural moss that grew in your forests. The symbiotic relationship it had with your people's nervous systems. Did you know that before the plague, your ancestors could communicate with plants directly?" Breyer's hoverchair shifted slightly. "That's not common knowledge, even among my people. It's mentioned in some of your older texts. Pre-industrial era stuff." Eugene stood, brushing dirt from his knees. "I noticed you prefer to keep your chair at ground level rather than elevated. Most Velnari diplomats position themselves at eye level with other species." She stiffened. "You've met other Velnari?" "No, but I read the protocols. You're the first I've had the honor of meeting." He paused, then added carefully, "You're also the first I've seen who seems tired. Not physically, spiritually tired." The directness should have been offensive. Instead, Breyer found herself answering honestly. 53 years in this chair, human. 53 years of being the face of a species that can no longer stand on its own. "Yes, I'm tired." Eugene nodded slowly, then did something completely unexpected. He sat on the ground, cross-legged, putting himself below her eye level. "I'll help you walk," he said simply. The laugh burst from Breyer before she could stop it. Harsh, bitter, edged with decades of disappointment. "You? A gardener? Where the finest medical minds in the galaxy have failed, you think?" She stopped, seeing his expression hadn't changed. He wasn't joking. "I'm serious," Eugene said quietly. "That's impossible. The neural plague rewrote our entire nervous system architecture. The pathways are corrupted beyond repair." "I know. I've read every paper published on the subject." Eugene reached into his pocket and pulled out a small container. Inside was a luminescent growth that made Breyer's breath catch. It looked almost like neural moss, but the structure was different, more complex. 3 years ago, I started cultivating a hybrid. Earth fungi combined with samples of your neural moss, crossbred with terrestrial plants that show primitive nervous system responses, like the Mimosa pudica. Breyer stared. Why would you even attempt this?" "Because 53 years is too long for anyone to be tired," Eugene said softly. And because humans have a bit of a reputation for not accepting that something is impossible just because everyone says so. This is madness. Human arrogance. But her voice wavered. Probably. Eugene agreed cheerfully. But here's what I know. Your neural moss evolved to interface with Velnari nervous systems because of millions of years of coevolution. The plague didn't destroy your nerves, it changed them. Changed them into something your own neural moss no longer recognizes. But what if we could create a new bridge? Something that could learn to recognize the new pattern? He opened the container fully. This hybrid responds to bioelectrical impulses. It's programmable, adaptable. In my tests with Earth animals who had spinal injuries, the success rate is, well, it's promising. You tested this on animals. Breyer's tone was sharp, with full ethical oversight and complete pain management, and only because they would have been euthanized otherwise. Eugene met her gaze steadily. I wouldn't ask you to be a test subject, Ambassador. I'm telling you this because I want permission to work with your medical team. To at least try. Breyer felt something crack inside her, some wall she'd built over decades of disappointment. Do you understand what you're offering? Hope is the cruelest thing you can give someone like me. I understand that giving up is crueler, Eugene replied. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of earth birds and the rustle of alien leaves in the breeze. Finally, Breyer spoke, her voice barely a whisper. My people have a saying. The soil remembers the roots, even when the tree has fallen. I thought I'd forgotten what that meant. She looked at this strange human gardener with his dirt-stained hands and impossible promises. When can we begin? Eugene's smile was like sunrise. Tomorrow, if you'd like. But today, would you let me show you the rest of the garden? There's a section with earth orchids that I think you'd appreciate. They're parasitic plants that rewire their host's vascular systems. Reminded me of your people's relationship with neural moss. As they moved through the garden, Eugene walking beside her hover chair and speaking enthusiastically about root systems and neural pathways, Breyer felt something she hadn't experienced in 53 years. She felt the tears before she realized she was crying, not from sadness, but from the terrible, wonderful weight of possibility. Eugene noticed, but said nothing, simply continuing his explanation of how certain earth plants could regrow from a single cell, how life always found a way to adapt, to survive, to reach toward light. Above them, Earth's sun set in colors Velnara never produced, oranges and purples and reds. And for the first time in half a century, Ambassador Breyer thought that perhaps humanity's primitive determination wasn't a weakness. Perhaps it was their greatest strength.